Marki, right?
That's correct.
Right. Well, nice to meet you. I'm Diane Barrett.
Nice to meet you too, Diane.
I look forward to it. I want to check the spelling of your name. Is it M-A-R-K-I?
It is.
Okay, great. K-N-O-X, right?
Correct.
All right, we're on top of it. And today is, I have to check my notes, April 6th. I'm here with Dr. Marki Knox. So thank you for being part of the BE collection.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I've looked forward to this.
Well, I have received all your notes about your photos, which was really helpful. Thank you. And so I just asked, this is a conversation just about who you are, how you evolved into your career, and your sexuality. Did it influence it? Did it not influence it? Just that development, in the hopes that it can, in recording the past, inspire the future.
Indeed.
Hopefully we're archived, we're well archived with the Mazer and also with the Cal State Dominguez Hills Girth Archives.
I saw that. I read a little bit about it.
Did you? Great.
Yeah.
We've been, we did not know anything about archiving, and now we know a little bit. And
Yeah.
we've had great assistance. So I'm pleased about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's important work. I realize more and more how important our history is to informing the future. So
It's interesting. We don't feel so much, I don't personally feel a difference, but there is a difference.
there's definitely a difference.
I know. I just evolved, and it's where I am, who I am. And
Yeah. Well, me too.
Born.
You know, but I think for many people in our community, while I don't think it's a decision, I think they treat it as one. You know, how to
Yes.
be who they are and walk in the world and be safe and be happy, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a big step. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no question.
Sometimes a lot of side steps to get to the main one, but
Boy, isn't that the truth?
right.
Yeah.
So are you from California, or did you?
No, I was born in Wichita, Kansas, which is a very good place to be from.
Mhm.
But I still have some family there, and actually have been back a couple of times and found that it was a lot more tolerable as an adult than it was as a child. But my dad worked for Boeing, so his pursuit was to get us transferred from the Wichita, Kansas B-52 Boeing plant to Seattle.
Mhm.
And he actually succeeded in doing that when I was about 10 years old. So I basically grew up in Seattle.
Good change.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I loved it.
Where are you? You have siblings?
I do.
Mhm.
My brother's still in Seattle, as are his children, my nieces and nephews,
Mhm.
and a couple of grandnieces and nephews. And my sister actually is living in Ireland. She is married to the Bishop of Londonderry, who
Yes. Whoa.
yeah. And, they're wonderful people. We don't see each other as much as I would like, but, I'm going to see her actually in June. She and her husband, she and Ken are meeting me on Maui. We're going to hang out together. So
Maui is the place.
yes,
I can't tell you how many times, not only from you, but from Lori, then from Greg, the
Right.
head of the archives. I mean, I thought Maui is the place.
it is the place. It's definitely the place.
So where are you in the rank of your family and sibling order?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
And are your parents still living, or?
No, my father passed away when I was 16. And my mom died 5 years ago, I think, thereabouts. She was 94.
Goodness, huh?
Yeah, lived a long life, remarried eventually, and was very happy, actually. So
Her remarriage, good for her.
yeah, she did it.
How about you? You're married? Are you married?
No, we're not. Excuse me, we're not married. I've been with my partner it'll be 23 years next month.
Mhm. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
We are going through a little bit of a rough patch, but I'm hopeful that we'll figure it out. I think that happens when you've been together a long time, kind of have to go back and shake out some of the moths, but yeah.
You have children together?
the children actually I adopted before Susie and I got together. So I had the boys when she and I got together. I think they were maybe 7 or 8 and about 10 or 11 when she and I got together. So basically, they grew up in the house with, yes.
With both of you.
Yeah.
We have a daughter who's adopted.
Oh, do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how old is she?
27.
Wow. Well, that's old. I've learned a lot, not just about being a parent, but, the things I've learned about racism, for one, and, our history with that is very distressing. But it has given me a whole new awareness and a whole nother place where I want to be active in creating change. Yeah.
So when you were in Seattle, were you aware at age 10 that you were sexually different?
Yes.
You were. Was that your earliest awareness?
No.
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 How early would you say that you realized that?
I think I was probably about 5 years old. And I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know. I didn't have a word for it until I was in middle school, but I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I also knew I shouldn't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't.
Right. It's probably wise, actually.
Yeah, it was wise.
Right. At that time. I don't know if it's ever a good idea to bring it up when you're that young.
Yeah. Well, I think, thankfully, I hope the world is changing a bit with respect to that. And I think that is thanks to the leadership of those in the trans community, most of whom know at a very early age that they're not where they belong. And I hope that informs us, because I know a lot of friends who said they really didn't realize until they were, early 20s or even beyond that. And I'm like, how repressed are we that we can't feel it, without a name for it, but just know that there's something different about
like you. I was 5 when I figured out that I was attracted to my first grade teacher.
Right.
Right.
I fell in love with my kindergarten teacher. Yeah.
She was developing a reading group, and I volunteered a lot because she bent over. She was a nun. She had that huge cleavage. And so I became a really good reader. I volunteered a lot, right? But I knew not to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. I was quite clear about that.
So it's a funny story, but at the time it didn't stress me. I just thought better
not
speak about this, right? Even to my grandmother, who I trusted implicitly. Almost.
No, I didn't talk to anybody about it.
No.
I did, though, in middle school. I think it must have been in about 7th grade or so, and I was an avid reader, and I read Exodus by Leon Uris, and there's a section in the book where they talk about the Nazis torturing homosexuals, and I saw the word homosexual, and I thought, and so I went to my friend Judy Stone and I said, Judy, I think I know, but what does this word mean? And she looked at me and she said, oh, you don't want to know what that means. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of what I thought. That's me. That's who I am. Which was, I was a little bit old, but in those times, I'm 75 now. So I was, that was a long time ago.
I think it was wise, frankly.
Yeah.
Did it put any fear into you that these people were tortured?
Well, that appalled me. I was, one of the things I was rabidly reading about at that age was the treatment of the Jews by the Germans during World War II. And I was horrified by it. And I read a lot of books on it. So coming across this was just yet one more way that I understood, what an evil, horrible hate that was.
So where did you go to medical school?
I went to medical school at the University of Washington in Seattle. but I didn't go to medical school until later. I went to Washington State University the first time that I went to college, and I went there because it was as far away from Seattle as I could get and still be in-state and pay in-state tuition. So,
I see.
so that was, and I loved it. It was a wonderful experience, and I made great friends there, and I met the first love of my life there. So, you know, it was good.
Significant.
Yeah. But then after I graduated, I started really thinking about what I really wanted to do. And I'd always had an interest in medicine, but I thought, oh my God, you know, so much work. You know, you got to go to all those years of school and do all that stuff. And when I got out and started working, I was like, if you're going to work, because work is hard no matter what you do. If you're going to do it, you better be doing something you love. Mm-hmm. So I made the decision to go back. And I went back. I went to a counselor. I was living in Seattle at the time. Deborah and I, who I met at WSU, were living together in Seattle. And I went to a medical school advisor at the University of Washington and took my transcripts. And I said, I want to go to medical school. And she looked at my transcripts and she said, well, first, you didn't take a single science. I said, no, I don't like them. And she said, and you know, your grades were not fabulous, because I discovered my second year sororities, which are really brilliant.
Really supporting.
Whole house full of women, you know. Yeah, so I really had a good time.
Good.
My grades, and she basically said, you're not smart enough, you can't do it. And I thought,
Really?
watch.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, she knew exactly how to get me, you know. So I walked out and I thought, yeah, watch this.
Forget this. I know.
Yeah.
I think that's a lesbian trademark.
It might be.
Tell me I can't do it, or I'm not qualified.
And watch what I do with that. Right. Yeah. So I went back to school. It took me 3 years to get all the requirements. I had a 4.0 grade point average. And I walked back into her office and I said, and she looked at me and smiled. And I thought, you bitch, you knew all.
Exactly.
You know,
she wanted to take it all away from you. It's like, I challenged you. I knew full well you could do this.
Exactly.
Okay, good for you.
Exactly. It was a kick in the ass. And then
at that time, how many women were in medicine? I think that's another part of it. Yeah.
Not very many. Mm-hmm. Not very many. I think there were maybe out of a class of 250 med students at the University of Washington. At that time, there may have been 15 or 20. Yeah, right. But so I applied, and of course now I was older. And when I had my interview with the committee, they rejected me because I was an old maid.
My gosh.
That's a quote.
Wow. You have to meet Marge. You have to. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is, we will extend beyond this point. Yeah. No, how cruel.
Yeah. But
insensitive. I mean, really.
Well, it was a bunch of dudes. I mean, it was this whole room full of.
Did they say that?
They didn't say that in the interview, but when they wrote up why I was not being accepted, that was their comment.
Right, and they actually put that in writing.
Yes, they put that in writing. But this was before the Equal Rights Amendment had passed.
I know, but just, I mean, you know, yeah, that's very painful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, mostly it just pissed me off. And
yeah, it's good.
So there was a woman who was older than I was, but married with children, who applied at the same time and was similarly rejected. And she hired an attorney and went after them. And she came to me, I didn't know her at the time. She came to me and she said, do you want to become a class action suit with me? She said, I've seen your history and some of your transcripts, not all, but you would be a perfect fit, you know, for this lawsuit.
How much older were you from the regular student applying?
I was 27.
Huh, so hardly.
Yeah,
And-
not much.
Right.
Yeah, not much. So she asked me to do that. And that was the one and only time in my life where I thought, you know, if I'm part of this class action suit and they find out that I'm a lesbian, then her suit goes down as well as mine.
Right.
And so, and I told her,
Good.
I said, I can't in good conscience do this.
Mhm.
And that's why. Well, 4 weeks later, they accepted her.
Really.
Yeah. So it never even became, I mean, they knew they were wrong. And
Uh-huh.
they accept, you know, so she got accepted and I thought, shit, you know, I should have done it.
You might have
but-
stopped their acceptance.
Maybe.
Who knows?
There was just no contest. I mean, the
Yeah.
university knew that they were caught
Mhm.
and they knew that the Equal Rights Amendment was on the horizon and that it didn't look good. So they took her without any contest whatsoever.
Mm.
So then I had to go another year. And that time, the first year I applied to 27 schools and I got 27 letters of rejection because I was too old and a woman. And the next year I thought, I'm applying to one school. And I applied to the University of Washington and they granted me an interview again. And I went back, I went in for the interview and I had a really bad cold. I was really sick. And I'd never had a cup of coffee in my life. And I'm sitting in the waiting room waiting for my turn and there was a coffee pot there. And I thought, oh, yeah, come on. So I had a cup of coffee and I felt so much better. So I had another one. And they called me into the interview and they asked me one question. And probably 20 minutes later, this time a woman in the interview looked at me and went, and
Really?
I mean, because I got up from,
Right.
on one question and they asked me,
question.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
You were having your caffeine high.
Well, and I don't think it would have mattered what the question was because I had a lot to say.
Mhm, good.
I said, first, you know, you should see what wisdom and life experience bring to a physician in medical school, as opposed to kids who haven't been out there yet, and yada, 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 and on from there. I blasted them. And I left and went home and I thought, wow, you blew it. And 30 minutes later, the same woman called me and she said, don't talk, you're in.
Really? Right. Wow. Did you ever see her again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good. Uh-huh.
She was part of the faculty and
Wow.
we became friends.
Did you ever talk about the incident where she went?
No.
No.
No,
Oh.
no, we didn't. No, I understood it. I was on a roll there. I was really,
Yeah, you were. A little caffeine.
yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Mhm.
And to this day, I drink coffee. So
You're a Starbucks fan. Starbucks started in Seattle, I think, didn't it?
yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Mhm. Well, good for you. No, you wonder what would have happened if you hadn't defended yourself and your position, you know, your goal, really. You weren't defending
that-
where you were, you were defending where you wanted to go.
Yeah, no, by then I knew exactly what I wanted. And there was not, I mean, if I'd had to, I would have gone to Guadalajara. I would have
Right.
done
Right.
whatever it took
Mhm.
because I knew what I wanted. So, yeah.
Then after you graduated medical school, what was your next step?
When I graduated, I had a couple of very good friends, you know, who went through medical school with me. Women, again, were a significant minority of the class, but and one of them, a woman named Marcia Durfee, who did medical school independent study. How do you do that? I mean, she was brilliant. And we became very good friends and talked about, you know, what did we want to do? And she decided on OBGYN. And I thought, you know, that's interesting because that's the one rotation that I did that truly fit all the things I wanted to do as a physician. And it really had nothing to do with being a lesbian. It had to do with, I wanted do surgical things, and I wanted primary care aspect, but with surgical options and doing something instead of handing out pills. It was just, it seemed a good fit. So I interviewed probably 8 or 10 places around the country and came back and thought, why would you leave? This is a great residency program. You have roots here, you have friends, stay here. So I did my residency. Yeah, at the university.
Were you in a relationship then?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Yes. It also ended as a result of that, but
as a result of your selection of your specialty?
No, I think more to do with just, the difficulty of being a resident, on call every third night, gone, from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. on the nights I wasn't on call. It just, it didn't work. I loved her passionately, but it didn't.
You loved her passionately?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah.
Was she in medicine also?
No.
How did you get into Los Angeles, into California?
Well, as a resident, it was a really kind of a brutal residency program. We were the lowest paid residents in the country. I think I was making $8,000 a year as a house staff member, which, even then was not enough. And, on call, they didn't give us parking or meals or, yeah, it was brutal. Yeah. And when you were on call, you were not sleeping. You were up and, going about the work of what we do. So at some point in my second year as a resident, I noted that we had out of, I don't know how many house staff in total, but 5 suicides. And, amongst ourselves, we talked about it and said, no wonder. I mean, people are sleep deprived and, all of the stress that goes with it. So we started talking about how to improve our working conditions. And a core of us decided that we needed to unionize. Well, that didn't go very well. But we spent the next year and a half, lobbying for that with the powers that be, and actually got affiliation and support from like the AFL-CIO and a group of residents in New York who were similarly trying to improve working conditions for house staff and, help with some of the emotional and mental problems that people were having. But we failed in the end. I was the public relations part of this group of 3 people who were doing this, which meant I was extremely visible. I was being interviewed by the Seattle Times, once or twice a week there for a while about our progress.
Did you like that? Notoriety?
It wasn't the notoriety so much. It was a chance to speak, to talk about what we were experiencing and why we were doing it. It wasn't just for money. This was for survival for those people who were, suicidal or destroying relationships and all the things that go with it. And I was very passionate about it, but it made me very, very, very visible.
Right.
And it meant that, a couple of times a week, I'd get hauled into a doorway by some local attending and told that I would never work in Seattle again, because I was airing the dirty laundry, as it were. So I thought, okay.
You think today that would get more attention?
I think things are so much better now.
Right. But
I don't think
still a woman.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I'm not sure. It got a fair amount of attention then. I mean, we got a lot of attention, not just locally, but, in New York as well, because they were trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. They accomplished it before we did. But it did change the way things are done.
Good.
And that was really what we wanted, better conditions, more pay, less, physical demand
Right.
in terms of the
Were
hours.
those people in your residency program, or were they, I know anesthesiologists have a high suicide rate, or
Yes.
psychiatrists, or
Yep.
they were in your program?
The residents who committed suicide were across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them were internal medicine, some were OBGYN, some were anesthesia, some were, it kind of crossed the board. But it
I'm an
was,
operating room nurse. I met my Marge at LA County Hospital in the operating room. And it would seem like the anesthesiologists, the residents would go to lunch and wouldn't reappear. Many of them killed themselves.
right.
It was during that same time period you're talking
Yeah.
about. Mhm.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was
Mhm.
really brutal. And it was, but I survived it. And
That's good.
when I was ready to leave, I was within a couple of months of being finished. There was a little Xeroxed or fax or something that appeared in my mailbox. It was clearly a one pager that had been sent out to a bunch of people. And it said, Women's Medical Group of Santa Monica looking for a OBGYN partner. And I thought, that's interesting. And I just had a feeling about it. And
You
so
had a relationship during all this litigation, and
I did, yeah.
Okay.
But I thought about it and I thought, I think these people might be lesbians.
Right.
And so I sent them a resume, and on the resume, I put all my stuff, and I included the fact that I coached a women's softball team called Knox's Foxes. And I immediately got a phone call back from them, and they said, well, we want you to come down
You
here.
sent a photo of that, I remember.
I did. I sent you a
Right.
But I promptly got the call back, and they wanted me to come to Los Angeles and meet them. And so I did. And I walked into the restaurant, and they were all sitting at the table, and I looked at them and I thought, yeah.
I'll put here. I'll
Yeah.
try this one.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It was 3 women, all of whom were lesbian, and 1 gay man who
Did you know Jane Patterson?
I know of Jane. I don't.
Oh, okay. She was a
know.
friend of ours, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She went on television announcing her sexuality.
Did she really?
Yeah,
I
she
didn't
did.
know.
She came out before anybody else came out. It
Yeah.
was a great boon to her practice, actually.
Well, as it turns out, I think it was for ours as well.
Yes.
We had a few doctors' wives who weren't, as soon as they found out, were like, I'm out.
Really?
Yeah.
What were they afraid of? They should have been secure. You weren't interested in their husband.
That's right.
Right.
Well, I think there was pressure from their husbands.
Really?
Yeah, for them not to continue a relationship. But it was a great practice, very successful. And yeah.
Are you practicing now?
No,
No, you stopped.
I retired in December of 2019 with big plans to travel the world, and of course, COVID. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's how we started this interview process.
Yeah.
We got bored.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's, yeah.
Well, we were retired too. Yeah. So now in your retirement, what are you doing now?
I'm on the board of the Los Angeles LGBT Center.
Right. I noticed that.
Yeah. And I, for 10 years, was the co-chair of the board of directors, stepped down from that at the same time, which might not have been the best timing,
You're just letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big decision to
Yeah.
retire.
Yeah, it was. But, I figured that I didn't want to be one of those people that worked until I hurt somebody, or, and being on my feet in the operating room hours and hours at 74 was harder.
Right.
I just thought, it's time not to do this anymore. So.
Well, I admire you for doing that. And I hold that for Marge too. I hold that so many people don't stop.
Right.
Right. That's the hazard.
See it. And I looked around and thought, no, I don't want to do that. So
But then what to do? How old are your boys?
the boys are 34 and 31. My younger boy is about to become a dad. So
And your other son?
he is 34. He's in a relationship. And he's always been pretty steady Eddie. They're both just great human beings. I'm really blessed. The boys both went through public school in Santa Monica. And very much that was a real choice I made. I didn't want them to be the token Black kids in some private school on the West Side, which is what they would have been. I wanted them to grow up with people of all kinds of economic means and skin color and backgrounds and everything, which they did. And
I think that's good.
It's been great. I mean, the remarkable thing for them is they still have good friends from elementary school that they see and talk with on a regular basis, and which I think is a huge testament to they were able to create a community, in that way.
So what's been the biggest challenge in your life so far?
Surprisingly, retirement.
Okay. It does surprise us.
Yeah.
I join you in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, everything was a challenge, getting into medical school, getting all along the way, paying for it was a challenge.
Did you slide into retirement or have it be next year I'm going to be retired?
It was planned.
Right.
But like I said, I thought, well, I'm going to retire in December and then we have all these trips planned. So we're going to have this wonderful year of, stuff to do. And that, of course, did not happen.
Because of the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all about the same time.
Yep.
Sort of locked you in.
It did.
That's how I felt, right.
Yeah. And I was not happy about it then, and I'm still not happy about it, but I'm kind of getting.
You have a full practice and you stop and get locked in.
Yeah.
The rest of neuroses will arise.
Yeah.
People in your family who are homosexual or have links, any other homosexuals in your biologic family?
No.
Okay.
As far as I know, my entire family is straight. So
they're not talking about it if they're not, right?
Yeah.
Do you have hobbies?
I used to be a passionate reader and writer. I now have a cataract, which I have to have. So reading is very difficult for me right now. That's going to get a whole lot better, I'm hoping, soon.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. And I like to garden. I'm a big grower of tomatoes and things like that. So, yeah.
Where do you live? Do you live in Los Angeles or?
Yes. We live in Los Angeles. We recently bought a place on Maui. That's, I love the water. I love being in the water. I like snorkeling. I like swimming. I like everything about it. So that's been a real godsend, to be able to go there and look at the fish and, all of those things. So
I've been there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It's interesting how many people I've heard of going to Maui, coming from Maui. And it's like, well, Maui's the place.
It would seem to be now. And there's actually a pretty robust lesbian community there. I mean, it's
gay men too, I can tell you.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That it's been surprising in a nice sort of way to find that there are all these people there, who you can commune with. So
are you doing anything in medicine, like teaching or?
I have been assisting on surgeries, both for my former partner who's still practicing, because some of the surgeries we did were fairly unique and you can't just go and ask anybody to come in and help you. So I've been helping her with surgeries and a few other people who are in practices where they don't have a partner and just need it. So I've been doing some of that.
You like that?
I do. Yeah. I still find that after 3 hours or so, I kind of need a break, you
Yeah,
know?
that's
So
a long time
it is.
to be that intense. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, some of the cases go twice that long. So it's a stretch.
right.
Yeah.
I'll just come in for after you started. I'll leave before you close.
That's right. A very good idea.
Right. Just
Well,
let
and
me
I also have been doing medical missions, which
know.
I very much enjoy.
What is that?
Taking surgeons and nurses and support staff to, mostly we've been going to Southeast Asia,
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Cambodia, it went to India. We
Mhm.
did go to Guatemala. We went to Honduras. I would not go back there. That was not a pleasant experience. But of course, with COVID,
Let's stop that.
yeah, we had to stop that. So I'm still hoping we can, do a mission maybe in 23. So we're
Mhm.
looking at places to go.
I read some places, mainly women physicians that sign up for that.
That's what?
Mainly women physicians that fill those spots.
Yeah.
I thought, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Not exclusively. There's a couple men that I've worked with, because these are surgical missions. We're going in strictly to do surgery.
right.
So we usually take 2 general surgeons, 2 GYNs when we can find another one, a plastic surgeon, and then we take a team of people that fit artificial arms. And half the surgical team has been male and half female.
That's
So, and these guys are really amazing, wonderful people to work with. And
if you knew you were going to die soon, would you like to be remembered for anything special?
I think just the total of my life. I mean, I've enjoyed my life enormously. And I feel like I've been really blessed all along the way, to be able to do the things I wanted to do. Not everybody is that fortunate.
What's your favorite fairy tale or children's story?
That's a tough one. I liked all the Dr. Seuss's, and the kids liked them. And that, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I have to give that a little thought.
You're to me, I'm impressed with your spirit of adventure.
Yeah.
And that question, which is one that runs through my mind a lot, I thought, wonder what her favorite. First thing that comes to your mind, Disney movie, book, fairy tale, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one. I would have to give that a lot of thought because I read them all and I liked them all. So.
That's right. And because you're a reader, I thought, I'll ask her.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for doing this. I look forward to
Thank you.
a relationship and having you meet Marge.
I would love that. I'm sorry she couldn't be here, but
I know, right.
Yeah.
So
We'll
thank
have,
you. Have a good day.
You too, Diane.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.